Welcome everybody to this video demonstration of the achievement of the milestone 3 for the cPokerDRED development Fan13 project. In short, we are going to show the milestone outputs, which consist of the code in the CardanmoAfterDark DRED GitHub repository, the Docker image on Docker Hub, and then this video guiding you to set up a DRED node on your virtual private server. On Docker Hub, we deployed a Docker image. You know, you can deploy only Docker images and not Docker composes on Docker Hub. Therefore, the Docker compose is on our GitHub repository. I'm going to guide you through this, starting from the README file, which is in our DRED repository inside the Docker folder. We just follow this file, this document. We start with vanilla Ubuntu 24.4 with Git installed. So let's say we enter for the first time this server, and we have a sudo r. We perform a full installation, a full update and upgrade. It will take a few seconds of this video. And then we install Git after that. Now we are ready to go through this. So we start by cloning the repository. Typically we need just main. In this case, since we are on the latest development that we are going to merge soon, we are just going to take this branch. You don't need to take this branch. It will be committed on main. At this stage, you can just go through the setup steps to enter the Docker directory, make this executable, and then install Docker. When Docker is installed, you also need to add your user to the Docker group so that you can run Docker commands without using sudo. So this is the right command to do so. The installation is almost done. Let's add the user. And we also do this. Now the next step is to configure the environment variables. So we provide example environment variables that you need to copy into an emp file. And then you should edit the emp file. What you need to edit is typically the domain, the Blockfrost API key, and the DRED node ID. So I'm going to edit the variables out of the recording because the Blockfrost API key is, we don't want to share that. But we can edit together the domain. This is the domain through which we are going to reach DRED, and also the DRED node ID. Also, this is the unique identifier of your DRED node. Now that I added also my Blockfrost API key, we can keep going. Here you can see the variable that we typically change. Now we can just launch the Docker compose. You will have it from main. And after that, we can basically check the status of Docker, which of course will be up. More meaningful is to check which processes are running. We typically have three processes running with this Docker compose: Nginx, Redis and the DRED server. As soon as this is running, I'll show you the three processes, and then we take a quick look at the logs before verifying the DRED works as expected. Now these are the three images. You can see Redis server, DRED server, and Nginx proxy. We do a Docker PS. They are all up and running. Very good. Maybe we can do a little check of Docker logs, for instance, Nginx proxy. And here we can see that we are doing the SSL certification through Let's Encrypt, or maybe we can check the logs of the DRED server, and you can see more or less the same. Now we go to verify the DRED operations. So if DRED works, we should be able to curl to this address. Remember, this is the address we provided and which we have access of. So it would make sense to do this from my local machine. I do curl to this URL, and I'm able to get the name of the channels that are available there. Of course, I should be able to do the same also from a browser. I think I have an open tab. Yeah, basically with this URL ready, I hit enter, and yes, I can see the channels from there. Now that we know the channels are available, we try to send a message. And simple way of sending a message is to use curl. So again, it makes sense if I curl from my local machine and I send a message like to this node saying hello from this server. And then I get a positive answer. So I get an ID and an OCID, which is a unique identifier of the message inside the DRED server and neighborhood. I could do more. I could tail the logs of the DRED server with -f, and then trigger again a message. Maybe this time I'll write something different. Okay, doesn't make sense. And I will basically see this message 1b7 in the log when I'll be searching for it. Okay, so with this, basically the way ideally you should proceed is that you, like we did in milestone 2, you follow the documentation, you create a pre-prod wallet, and then you mint a member token, like we did for instance the German server, and you keep going with the process. Now, that's out of scope for this milestone. We already showed the Docker-based package for running a DRED neighborhood works, and in this video we are going also to show that we have an initial version of the configuration to set incentives that can be tested. For this part, we have we provided a document in doc7.3, and basically it explains a little bit of everything, but the important part is the smart contract configuration for incentives and costs. So you can see also in our GitHub, we tend to have kind of good pull requests where when somebody submits a request, somebody else try to make sense of the request so you understand what happens. Here you can see that, for instance, we can charge a minimum fee, which can be monthly or yearly. You can look at the pull request, but better if you look at our documents. In this case, the core of the change is the on-chain SRC, where we have the protocol setting data, where you can have a node operator setting or a neighbor setting, and the node operator and the neighbor settings are defining expected parameters like the service level agreement, for instance, how long should be between an interval, how much should be your node uptime, and also fees and stakes. So for instance, what is the minimum node registration fee, which is the minimum node operation stake. This document points you to the actual source code, which is compiled into Helios language through the Stellar contracts. And here you can see the actual source code that we are going to test. And that's for the node operator setting, which is the most important, and for the neighborhood in general. All of this is then tested in our DRED settings test, where, for instance, we load a smart contract with these parameters. Then we verify that the expected heartbeat interval is like more than 300 seconds, and then the minimum node operator stake is more than 40 ADA, and then the minimum, the service level agreement is you have to be on, the uptime should be 95%, and so on. It's better we look at the document where it's explained in a simpler way for our scope, but that's the test in short. In the document you can read about the minimum, the parameters like the minimum registration fee or the minimum stake. The integration of the contracts is done through the DRED capo that is imported in TypeScript and then is accessible from our tests. A very simple example of how we can set up the incentives is we just use an async way of setting the minimum registration fee and minimum neighborhood stake. In this case, 15 ADA, the minimum registration fee, and 50 ADA for the minimum neighborhood stake. That's for the neighborhood, and this is for the node operator. The node operator also needs to specify the service level agreements. So how many validation at minimum, what is the required node uptime, and what is the interval to show that you are healthy. All of these, as per agreement, can be tested in this version, and it's an initial draft version of the configuration. So far so good. You can find all the on-chain contract in the on-chain source, and after build you can test it through the DRED settings test. That should be it. For the evidence of milestone completion, we're going to present the source code of the main, where you will find also these documents. You will find a reference to the Docker image on Docker Hub, should look like this, and then a link to the current video and the previous ones for the part of registering the node was provided in milestone 2. The configuration documentation is going to be uploaded in GitHub, and the link to the smart contract that lets the developers configure the incentives and costs. So I'd say that's it for the milestone 3. Please let us know if there is any question. Thanks a lot for your attention.